I felt for you. Oh, I regret for losing the one who loved me, for who I can't go back.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Tiny Wheel channel. Today we'll be teaching you how to install the Brompton's rear rack. We've started off skipping a bit in that we've already removed the rear view from the bike. These days, Brompton also sells the rack and the rear fender separately, and we've already assembled it. There's only one attachment point, which you can see here, and my finger is pointing towards. For this first task, you require two 8mm wrench, so now let's begin attaching this assembly onto the Brompton frame. With the purchase, you receive two sets of 8mm bolts and nut, which you can see here in my hand. For the first step, we'll now pick up one of the 8mm bolts and fit it in with a ring, like so. Then push the 8mm bolt through the frame from the inside towards the outside. Once that is done, we'll now put the rear rack onto the frame, starting from the brake connection point. So first of all, we'll have to pull the brakes out from the frame first. Once you have taken the rear brake out, we'll now insert the rear brake through the rack. This process might be a bit hard, and you should be very careful since there's very high possibility of scratching your rack or your brakes. They are both very hard metal, so please take your time with it. Once you're able to connect the rack through with the brake, we'll now have to push the fender onto the brake assembly as well. This step should be easier because the fender is made up of a more flexible material. Once you have finished inserting the brakes to both pieces, we'll now attach the leg of the rack to the right side of the bicycle. Once you're able to make through the connection points, like so, we'll now go back and work on the brake assembly. We'll now put the brake assembly and the rack onto the frame, but before that, we'll need to use this washer to insert in between the brakes and the frame. Once the ring is in, we push it into the frame. Also, you have to be pretty careful with this process because you don't want to chip your Brompton's paint. Once it's in place, we'll now pick up the other 8mm nut and bolt. The bolt first, we'll insert the washer onto the bolt and push the bolt through the rack from the outside in towards the wheel. Now we're gonna start locking the two connection points. First, we'll add the ring onto the bolt. Then we'll screw in the nut. For the time being, we just have to screw it lightly. Don't need to tighten it just yet. Repeat on the other side of the wheel. Once those two pieces are connected, we'll now move on to tighten the brake properly. For this process, I'll show you which part go on first. The first item here is going to be the ring that has a concave manner that fits with the frame. Then there will be a spring washer. Then a normal washer with no cutout. And then the stopper. The concave ring. The spring washer. The normal washer, then the lower stop disc will be used to tighten this whole brake assembly. Once the lower stop disc is tightened, we'll continue with inserting the wheel onto the Brompton bicycle. However, in this video, we will not be showing that, we'll be skipping it, so you have to look at the link below to see our video on how to install the Brompton rear wheel. So now we're back with the rear wheel properly inserted. Now what we're doing is we're going to tighten the lower stop disc fully and also the rear rack connection point that is attached to the frame. For this process, your rear brake should be able to move still. So you should press and hold the brake lever. The brake will center itself, and keep holding it, and using the number 10 wrench will now tighten the lower stop disc while holding the brakes. After the brake assembly is securely tightened through the lower stop disc, we will now pick up two 8mm wrench to tighten the bottom rack assembly, like so. And repeat on the other side. Be careful, as again, you might be able to scratch the frame during this process. So that is pretty much done. Thank you for watching our video. If you like it, please give us a like or press subscribe. Thank you very much.